back to Coaster Buddy. Today I'm here at Alton Towers for my first ever, you're not going to be able to hear me, my first ever visit to Scarefest. So I've never done the mazes, so today I'm going to be doing all 6. So that is Amigos In the Afterlife, Haribo Trick or Treat Town, Compound, The Attic, Daz Games Panic, and Altonville Mine Tours, Tiny's Revenge. So I'm going to give a little review for all of them because of course you're not allowed to film inside. It's about 12 o'clock right now. I've been on Wicker Man and Hex. I'll probably be taking another ride on Hex because it's great to have that back. But queues are massive today. So I'm just going to take you along for the trip, and it's the 30th of October today, so it's very much on peak right now. So I'm going to go probably get a fast pass for Nemesis Reborn because that queue is massive. So we're just walking back from Mutiny Bay right now because all the fast tracks, apart from a few on Oblivion, have completely sold out. Thankfully we already have fast pass, so that sort of saved us. So if you're coming on a peak day in October, definitely pre-book it or get there straight away, because when we first arrived to pick up our paper fast passes, the queue was massive and it took us about half an hour to get through, and probably by the end of that queue everything was sold out anyway. But I still think we're going to queue up for Nemesis and get a night ride on it later on because, you know, you can't miss out on that. And I reckon that the atmosphere in Forbidden Valley is going to be brilliant later on. But we're going to head down to Curse right now because that never has too big of a queue and it's definitely worth it. Well, that's another shockingly big queue, isn't it? We're here at Curse at Alton Manor. Let's have a look at how much this one's coming out on. It says reopening, but doesn't it always say reopening? Let's go have a look at how far back this one goes. I have never seen it this busy. Right, let's have a look. Oh wow, it's pretty wild today. Look at how far back that's going. Oh wow. So we've decided to take a punt and start heading into Alton Manor. This is quite a big queue, so we'll see how long this one takes. I don't really have a barometer for this because it's always been walk on when I've been here. This is going straight up into the forest. Normally you can take a shortcut around there. Not today, guys. This is definitely an on-peak day, and I can see why the fast tracks are selling out. I'll check the app when it updates and see how long we're going to be here for. Just a little update on queue times. I don't know how well you can see this. This is what we're dealing with. Oblivion is closed, Rita is closed for essential maintenance, so I don't think that's reopening. Spinball Wizard closed and the Smiler also closed. We've been told that because we have a silver fast track, if those guys don't reopen we'll be able to use it on a different ride, but not Nemesis Reborn, which seems like kind of strange because that's one of the only rides that's open. So we might be lapping 13. Family rides, let's see if Curse is on a 20-minute wait. We're moving quite quickly, so that's not too bad. You never do wait too long for Curse anyway, so that's quite good.
Yeah, but you're not going to fall asleep if you just do this, are you? So that's just a blink. I know, fall asleep or blink. It's raining now.
So we're just leaving the Curse of Alton Manor, and it was a pretty good ride. We probably waited the expected 20 minutes on that. The queue moves pretty fast for that anyway, but they started batching people through the rolling pre-show, so you know there were moments where there were cars that were going through empty because no one had been sent through yet. So I'm not sure what that was about, but overall everything was working barring the 2 effects which haven't been on for a long time now. The Trommel Tunnel hasn't worked pretty much all year. I visited in July and it still wasn't working. And then the stained glass window at the start of the ride where it's meant to crack down the middle, that wasn't on as well. But I don't think it really takes away from the experience too much, and the Trommel Tunnel makes me dizzy anyway, so I was quite glad to see that that was turned off still. But it's about 1 o'clock now, so we're going to start heading up to Trick or Treat Town and Amigos in the Afterlife. I keep forgetting what they're called, but it's going to be interesting to see because these are two like family-based attractions, so they're obviously not meant for me, but I'm going to go in with the perspective of, if it was me when I was a kid, would I be scared of this? Would it be something I would enjoy? Both of them are priced at £8, so is it worth the money as well? So we're going to go check those out. But a few extra details on these tickets. So we bought the Spooks and Frights Combi Pass, and that includes all of the scare attractions, and that means you don't actually have the time limit on it. So normally you'd have to complete all the mazes you've booked within a 2-hour time period. We can come and go to them at whatever time we want. So if I wanted to do Compound and take like an hour break out, I wouldn't need to worry about squeezing the rest of them in an hour time space. And the Spooks mazes open at 1 and the Frights ones open at 3 through 9. I'm just approaching the 2 family-friendly mazes right now, seeing a few people coming out with their bags of Haribos. So basics of the 2 mazes, I'm not really too sure on the Amigos in the Afterlife one, but the Haribo Trick or Treat Town comes back like almost every year. You go in, knock on a few doors and get some Haribo sweets, so it's quite an attractive one, especially given that it's only £8. And the thing that's interesting about Amigos in the Afterlife is it's in the Alton Towers dungeon building, which was previously also the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory ride and Toyland Tours. So it's going to be weird to get back in here because I didn't actually do the dungeons. I haven't done a dungeons full stop. So let's see what sort of queues we're dealing with. Trick or Treat Town's looking very busy. So I think we're going to start off with Amigos in the Afterlife, to be honest. So let's give this a go. I've just got out of Haribo Trick or Treat Town, and that was really good. It's very impressive in there. It's all inside, and you basically knock on all these themed doors, and some of them give you 2 bags of sweets, some of them just tell you a joke, some of them you just get the 1 bag, and you come out with about 12 bags of sweets, and the actors in there are actually really funny. I thought because I'm not that age it wasn't going to be for me, but it was actually really enjoyable and I had a good laugh in there. There was one moment where this skeleton was like peeking through this letterbox and snatching the sweets away from us when we tried to grab them, and then we had to go knock on the other door, and the panel on the door like dropped down and they jumped out and yelled at us, and it actually got me, to be fair. It's kind of a jump scare, I wasn't expecting that. But it's really fun, lots of theming, and I don't think it's really only for kids, to be fair, that one. I really enjoyed that, and I think it was worth the money, and I'm going to enjoy my sweets. I don't know if we're going to do Amigos in the Afterlife right now. I think we're going to get some lunch first, because that queue is looking a little bit big. So we're about to go into the land of the dead for Amigos in the Afterlife, and I just wanted to say a few more things about Haribo Trick or Treat Town. I said I was going to judge it on how it would be for kids, so I'm going to start with that. Definitely very good for kids. It's not very scary. I know that when the performers saw that I'm older, I know that they leaned in a bit more to the scary, but for the littler kids there was no like jumping out, loud noises and stuff. But definitely if you're a grown-up going in there, or a teenager for example, they will change the experience a little bit to make it more fun for you, switch up the jokes that they're using. Very nice interaction in there. Price, value for money, yeah, I'd say it's quite good. It's not £8 worth of sweets, but I think that's, to be fair, quite irrelevant. Just because what's more exciting, opening a pack of mini Haribos and just eating them in your living room, or going around knocking on doors and meeting exciting characters? I think I know I'm going to pick the latter one. It was really nice, very well thought out, very well themed. I didn't feel rushed around at all. Lots to see, and it was just overall a really good experience. I think I was going to say a third category in my review, but I can't think. Maybe it was to do with how I thought it was for myself, not being a toddler, and I thought it was very good even still. So I'd say it's a good overall experience, especially if you don't want to do the big hitting scare mazes. And even I'm nervous for the scare mazes, so we'll see how those go. But this is meant to be a family-friendly scare maze, this one, and so hopefully it won't be too scary. It might be, I don't know. So we're going to judge those on the same 3 categories again when we get out. I've just got out of Amigos in the Afterlife, and that was really good. Lasted about 15 or so minutes, and it massively exceeded my expectations. I'm gonna have to say that was better than Trick or Treat Town. It was much longer, arguably better value for money, and the show elements in there were really good. And as much as I'm not the target audience, the humour in there was still really funny, good use of slapstick, and the sets were really nice too, all like blacklit, very interactive. So you have guests like finding the key, for example. I was the one who found the key on this go, and getting ingredients for soups, getting in the wrestling ring for a bit of mucho libre, and it's a lot of fun actually. Even though I'm not the target demographic for it, I think it's really well thought out. I think they've made it spooky, not scary. I wouldn't say there's any moments where a child could be scared, so definitely from my first point of the review of is it appropriate for kids, definitely, no doubt about it. Very appropriate for families. Is it good for people my age, a bit older? Yeah, you're still gonna have a lot of fun. They still get older kids, adults, etc. involved in the performance, so you're not missing out on anything. And is it worth the money? Yeah, I'd say so. For £8, a 15-minute show is pretty good, and as much as the batches are quite big, they make sure that people who are shorter, like me, get to come a little bit further to the front, so everyone gets to see the show. And it was really good. Lots of smell pods in there as well, so it smelled like flowers throughout, which is quite nice, although sometimes it was quite overwhelmingly soapy. But yeah, I was quite surprised with that. I'm very pleased, so I would say that that is better than Trick or Treat Town. But if you're coming for the sweets, yeah, Trick or Treat Town will be your favourite probably. But we're going to head down, I think, to Galactica, because it's half an hour until the scare mazes open, and we'll be doing all 4 of those. I don't know how I'm going to cope because I'm quite scared of scare mazes. I've held off on doing them for quite a while, but I thought I'm going to do it this time round, and it's probably going to be hilarious. So I'm going to see if I can get some voice recordings of me in those mazes. But let's head down to Forbidden Valley and see what's going on down there. Just had a lovely ride on Galactica. That was running very well as per usual. The throughput on there was actually pretty good. We probably waited for about 30 minutes in the fast pass queue, which isn't too bad because it was queuing outside of the queue line. And now we're heading up to the first scare maze of the night, which is going to be Attic. I'm quite nervous. I've never done a scare maze before. Am I going to cry? Am I going to freak out? I don't know. So we'll have to see. I'm going to give a shot at all of the mazes, see which ones are for me, which ones are scary, probably all of them. And I'm basically going to give you a review from the standpoint of someone who's never done them before, because so many of them, reviews out there, are from the standpoint of people who have done Halloween Horror Nights, people who have done all the scare mazes in the UK, so they've sort of built up a strength to getting scared. Not me. I'm scared of a lot of things, like people jumping out at me, no. Dark spaces, no. Claustrophobic stuff, no. So this is going to be fun, isn't it? But it gives me a good grounds to review it for people who are too scared to do the mazes, a bit like me. So let's see how this one goes. Well, that was the Attic. They said no phone use in there, so I didn't manage to get any like voice recordings or anything. I made sure to follow the rules. But that was actually very good. For my first scare maze, I got 2 good scares. It wasn't too bad, quite fast moving, lots of actors, brilliant theming. I did get the fireplace scare. That was quite scary in that fireplace. So I did actually very much enjoy that, but it wasn't as scary as what I thought it was going to be. I'd say for a first scare maze, that's a nice start. I really enjoyed that. Very funny. Lots of interactions with the scare actors. Plenty of scare actors as well. They're coming out from the sides of the walls. They're like crawling up to you. That got me a bit. But yeah, I still think that scare I got in Haribo Trick or Treat Town is still the best one. That's the only one that's made me seize up. I just kept moving throughout that one. But I think it's good that you can just keep moving. There's no backing you into a corner or anything. A nice start to the scare mazes. So I think I'm gonna check out Panic next from Daz Games. I'm not too sure how much I'm going to enjoy this, because it's sort of more of an escape room than it is a scare attraction. But I do get quite scared in escape rooms for some reason, so maybe this is going to get me more than the attic. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. And crazy smells in there. It smelled very mildewy, but I'm sure that because it's in the towers, you know, you don't really have to add that in because it just already smells a bit like damp in there. But very enjoyable. Didn't have to wait whatsoever. Got batched in a group of probably 8, so everyone got their scares, coming from all angles, following you round. Very loud. Lots of strobe lighting in there, in that fireplace. Couldn't see anything. Those scares were definitely the most effective because you couldn't see them coming. But in the attic itself, you could sort of see them coming out from the flaps. You could see which flaps had actors behind them. You could sort of predict where they were coming from. So that was a good one for a first scare maze, because I'm glad I could see them coming, so I didn't completely freak out my first time. But maybe with Panic, you know, I'm not going to see them come in. They'll be coming around all corners and it's going to be a bit more frantic. So let's have a look. Well, that was Daz Games Panic Reloaded. Wasn't as good as the attic for me, but yeah, definitely stressed me out a lot. I was looking for my symbols, couldn't find them. The creatures in there are actually pretty scary, I'm not gonna lie. So that one got me quite a lot. I was trying to avoid looking for my symbols because of the granny thing that was in there, and that really freaked me out. They do touch you in there. It's not like a lot. There was one staff member who was lovely, stayed in character, but was trying to help us fix one of the buttons because the headphone symbol would not work, even though my symbol was the headphones. It just didn't work for anyone in there. Thankfully, one of my symbols did work, but I couldn't find the second one. But overall, that was a lot of fun. I'm glad I spent the full 6 minutes in there, because if I had found both my symbols, it wouldn't have been worth the £12 charge. But definitely a fun, interesting maze. I think maybe having more time in there, maybe 9 minutes would be nice, just because when it said exit, I was like, oh, is that it? But yeah, it was interesting. I quite liked it. I thought it was fun. Definitely more fun than the attic, because of course that's less interactive. But at the same time, those buttons need to be fixed, because only 1 out of 4 symbols for both the 2 people that went in there worked. So that needs to be fixed a bit. But overall, yeah, quite fun, quite interesting. Well, that was the second ride of Wicker Man of the day. We used our fast pass for Rita on that because Rita is down for the day. I'm not sure if it will reopen tomorrow, but it said it was closed for essential maintenance. But that was a fabulous. I think my lens is foggy. Just in a second. It's still a bit glary. I think it's just because it's getting later on. Yeah, that was really good. It's really warmed up since. It was running very fast. You got so much airtime on that. So if you are thinking about going on Wicker Man, I would skip the queue in the morning and I would try doing it later on when it's warmed up a little bit. Although it was running very slick in the rain, and definitely towards the back. That was row 10 we just did. So the wait time, you definitely can't see that, was 120 minutes. This morning it was over 200 minutes. So I would say stave off until the end of the day, because people will be going home early. So I would definitely be patient with that, and if you want to go on it, I would wait the 2 hours if you want. But yeah, fast pass for today definitely been essential. Another thing about Scarefest, aside from the mazes, there are also a series of shows that are on throughout the day. They have that nice big stage over on the lawns. They've actually taken down the rain cover because they're doing fireworks in a few days. So I imagine that at the start of Scarefest they still had the cover up, but I'm not too sure. And of course this year the fireworks is themed around Nemesis Reborn, and then I'm not sure if the full fireworks display is going to be themed around it. Of course, in previous years, each of the main big 7 rides get a little feature with their accompanied soundtrack, and it always looks very good. Never seen them personally, but they look awesome on video, so that's another thing to look out for. I just wanted to go into more detail as well about the scare mazes, because of course when you first get out of them there's a lot of adrenaline, and I probably spoke a load of rubbish afterwards, but I'd say of the 2 I've done so far, for scares that like actually make you jump, Attic by far. For creating the tension and fear, I would say Daz Games Panic, to be fair. I thought it was quite intense in there, lots of people running around. I thought the granny creature in there was quite terrifying personally. It was like this guy who was like 6 feet tall, and he had these pale white contacts in with really sharp teeth. Yeah, that weirded me out quite a bit. There's also Spinball Wizard closed today. Ride availability hasn't been great, but let me go back onto the mazes before I get distracted. Yeah, definitely very tense. Lots of strobe lights in there, people coming at you from all angles. You can see some of the enemies coming just because they are covered in black light paint, so you definitely see those, but the black light flashes in and out, so sometimes, you know, their face paint will fade away, and other times you'll see them coming from a mile off. But yeah, that was a really interesting one. But Attic, theming wise, miles and miles ahead of it. Yeah, you basically go up a lot of stairs and go right to the tippy top of the towers, and you walk through all this old Victorian attic, and there's creepy dolls, and there's fireplaces, old dolls' houses. It's very, very eerie in there, and there's a lot of clutter that makes it quite hard to see in there, quite smoky, lots of dim lighting. I think that's the main thing about the mazes, they're quite dark. So if you struggle to see in the dark, or you don't like the dark in general, yeah, might want to give them a miss. But I really loved the theme in there. It was great to get to see another part of the towers, and you know, I think it could do with a refresh, just because the scares are a little bit predictable. Of course, if it got any darker in there with all the clutter all about, you would end up tripping over. I nearly did a few times. So yeah, I think it's just overall a very good maze, very well themed, quite scary, but could be scarier maybe. Oh look, queue for Hex is very small. Do you want to get a go on that? Is that Hex closed again? I don't know. Shall we see? Oh, everyone's waiting outside, I imagine it is. Oh no, it's not.
Okay, Mike.
Let's have a see. Nope, Hex is open. I just think that people were looking at it. I don't know. Rita, Oblivion, Spinball Wizard, and a couple others. That's the ones that have been consistently closed today. There's some that have come in and out. Smiler broke down for a little bit, Wicker Man went down for a little bit, but I think they were changing trains out. Although it looks like there's people there in the Rita queue. Oh my goodness, Rita's reopened. That's a twist. Wow. We'll have to have a look at that one. No. Well, fast track, not so much. That is queuing right the way up back to there in the station. Yikes. We thought we were gonna go for a ride on that, but I think we're gonna do 13 first and then make our minds up on that. I don't really mind queuing for it because it's a brilliant launch, but 13, spooky, night ride. This should be very fun. There's Rita. You might have seen a little bit of that, probably not. This is a 90-minute wait for it at the minute, but let's go. There's a single rider for 13. Are you joking? Single rider? Oh, I would have been single riding today. Oh well, I guess you learn new things. So that makes 13 and Smiler the two that have single rider. What do you mean? Oh, this is creepy. There's no one here. It says 90 minutes, but there's no one here. So let's go have a look at the ancestors. I didn't get a chance to film anything outside the entrance because there was a closure at Altonville Mine Tours, but that was spectacular. That, hands down, Tiny's Revenge, best maze of the night. Such dense theming, brilliant smells in there. Well, I say brilliant, they were disgusting. And I got some immense scares in there. I'm talking jumping out my skin, swearing, brilliant scares in there. There was one where, you're probably not going to be able to hear me very well. There was one where this guy in a gas mask, he jumped out from the shadows. He was right in front of me. I was just going to walk straight forward into a corner and he just popped out and wow. I jumped out my skin. It was simply brilliant. I'm just approaching the Alton Ancestors show right now. I'll talk a bit more about Tiny's Revenge in a second. I'll probably put some clips in. So hopefully some of the footage from that show came through okay. I don't think that was the Ancestors show, I'm not gonna lie. I think that was Sin Bin. I'm not too familiar with the show set up here, but yeah, high production value, lots of really good lighting, fog effects, good costumes too. So they're definitely worth checking out, especially if the scares aren't for you, but you want a break from all the big hitting rides, or even if you just want to sit down and have some food really, because over there you have the setup with the double-decker bar, you have lots of alcoholic options there, and there's actually a marshmallow toasting stand where you can go to a massive fire pit and toast your own marshmallows, which is very interesting. But back onto Tiny's Revenge. So basically the storyline is the mines, which were previously a tourist attraction, they have been abandoned because one of the skin snatchers has managed to wriggle their way out of the police department and they are living inside the mines. So when you go through the mines, you can see miners, skin snatchers, people who don't want their skin to be snatched, and it's really intense in there because you're going through single file and a lot of people are moving quite quickly through, you know, they're being urged through by the actors. So it is quite an intense experience, and I'm glad that I did the attic and Daz Games before that one, because I definitely think it would have been too much for my first maze ever. But no, I really enjoyed that. I thought that it was the right amount of scary and the theming was just amazing. It didn't feel like I was going through a mine as such, just because, you know, there was a lot of open space in there, but I think that was just to really enhance the scares, because otherwise you would only really get scares if you were right at the front or right at the back. But thankfully there are people popping out from the side and there's like holes in the walls and people can reach through and grab your shoulder. I went in with my mum, they grabbed her hair, which was crazy. It's some really amazing scares in there, and I think it's probably the strongest one so far. We've got Compound left to do. I think I'm going to have a go on Runaway Mine Train and maybe Curse at Alton Manor before that. I do need a bit of a break after that. Definitely got my adrenaline flowing. But I think if I was to rate them out of 10 so far, I would say Daz Games Panic, 7 out of 10. I did feel very tense in there, but I didn't get any scares as such. Then Attic, I would say it's probably an 8, very good. And then I'm going to say that Tiny's Revenge is a 9 or a 9.5. Don't want to give it the full 10 for the best of the night because I still have one left. So I'm going to reserve the top spot for either Compound or Tiny's Revenge because I was very impressed with that. It felt like very much what people show off or talk about Universal Halloween Horror Nights mazes. So I think that's quite a good compliment. That was Nemesis Compound I've just been in. That was very strong. I think I would say scare-wise, I kind of got a similar amount of scares on Tiny's Revenge and on Compound. So I think they're kind of hard to distinguish. But yeah, if you're not a fan of strobe lighting, that's one to miss, because towards the end the strobe was like, it was almost taking a screenshot of the woman in front of us. It's very intense. The phalanx are very up in your face. Even if the phalanx members are trying to help you, they very much stay in character and they will still shout at you, even if they are politely helping you still. So it's quite an intense maze. I would say similar amount of scares to Tiny's Revenge, but they were very different in the way that they were executed. It is super free flowing in there. Even if you're put on one of, I believe, 3-ish routes, you will probably dip in and out of other routes at the same time, which I think is really interesting. So the particular route that I took was, I first of all started in my pod. We had 3 people total in there, and you know, they were obviously coming into the pod, getting up in people's faces, you know, shouting at them. You get your little information video about the fact that you're locked in here because they think you're part of Seek the Truth, which is the organisation that wants to save Nemesis from the research the Phalanx is performing on it. And then the doors open and we went into this corridor and there was this man sort of lurching on the floor. He, I guess, was sort of infected with the alien spores or offspring, I don't know. It's reminding me a lot of the Alien film from 1979, which I'm a big fan of, so it was really up my alley, I guess. And so he was sort of jumping very erratically at people, getting up in your face. They all have this sort of growly, shouty sort of noise that they make, which is quite scary. And then we ventured on forwards into, I guess, the research lab, where there was massive test tubes and they had people inside them, which was interesting. So you could see who they were already experimenting on, which, you know, is a creepy theming piece. And I can't really say that room smelt, but then we were guided by one of the researchers who kept jumping out from behind the test tubes. That got me. That was a really good jump scare. And then he instructed us to go into this sort of gym locker room, and that stunk. I thought the sort of cheesy smell that was in Tiny's Revenge was bad. That was very bad. It hummed of sweat and like uncleanliness. And I saw the guy who was in the research lab sneak in and go through some clothes. And when I turned a corner and he wasn't there, I thought, oh, we're fine. And then he popped out from behind some lockers, and that really got me. That was a big jump scare. Then we keep going and we end up at like this cage, and we all get split off again, but I still stay in my group of 3. We then go over this metal bridge where there's like tanks of chemicals there, and there's this one guy and he's jumping and screaming on this bridge, and he pops out from around the corner as we approach the bridge. That really got me. I didn't like scream or anything, but yeah, definitely inside I was screaming. So when we go through there, we have to go through a crawl space, and then we end up sort of, I guess, in the kitchens almost, and that's where the alien is. Very impressive costume in there. Really liked the alien design, and that was sort of walking around, but there was so much strobe in there you couldn't see where you were going, so it's super bright in there, so when it obviously comes out at you, you can't see it. I can't say that was the most effective jump scare, to be fair. It could have been better, but I think there was so many people who ended up in that scene at once that there wasn't really a right lot they could have done. But I think I might give it another go tomorrow because I thoroughly enjoyed that. So I'd like to see what the other routes are, have a go at getting some of the other pathways because they sound really interesting. I can't remember what happened. Oh yeah, obviously after that you go out into this big hallway and some phalanx operatives, they come at you with some tasers, quite abstract looking tasers albeit, and my first instinct when he ducked under the barrier was to put my hand down, and I smacked the taser, and it was like made out of either very solid plastic or metal because it hurt. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, because I didn't know he was going to put it that close to me. And then obviously as you're leaving, they're grabbing your shoulders and they're shoving these tasers in your face. There's obviously 2 officers there, so it does get very heavy, very intense, lots of strobe. You know, as you're going towards the taser scene, the strobes were quite literally taking screenshots of what was in front of me. I could not see, but it made for really good scare opportunities. Not all of them were fulfilled, and I really enjoyed it. I thought the theme was brilliant. As like an Aliens fan, I think it was perfect, and I'd like to see them even do more with it for next year, because I think even a few more actors dotted around, that would make it the most formidable experience at Scarefest. Now on to like a sort of final review for like which one was the best. It's really tough. I think for doing it multiple times, I would say Compound, definitely. So that might be my top. I'm here at the hotel, so let's turn this off. It's been a few days since I was at the resort, and some of my rankings have changed for the scare mazes, so I'm going to tie them all up right now. 10 out of 10, Altonville Mine Tours Tiny's Revenge. That's definitely my top maze. It's the most memorable, most effective scares. 9.5 out of 10 is Compound. Brilliant theming, great execution, although I think the alien at the end got a little bit overwhelmed. There was maybe too many people in that scene, and they could maybe improve that a little bit. The Attic, definitely a solid 8 out of 10. Good for a first introduction to scare mazes, but the amount of scares you get is definitely dictated by what part of the line you're in. I was in the middle, I didn't get too many, but the front definitely got the main bulk of the scares. 6 or a 5 out of 10 is Daz Games Panic Reloaded. It doesn't really compare to the other mazes where there could have been scares they weren't really executed on. It was great for building tension and fear, but it wasn't really released, so it didn't feel like that rewarding of an experience. As for the family-friendly attractions, those rankings remain the same. They were perfect for their target audience, brilliant theming, great interaction, and definitely good value for money at £8. So if you don't want to do the big hitting scare mazes, or you're coming with younger siblings or kids, it's definitely worth checking those out. And that brings me to the end of this vlog. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like, comment and subscribe. Bye bye!